Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a wonderful episode of the Duck Zone. We are talking baseball. It is our World Series show, and it's an exciting World Series, a matchup we haven't seen since 1981. Just starting off right from the top, just got to start with some somber news. Totally forgot to tell you this, James. We lost a baseball Dodger legend right at the beginning of this week. Fernando Valenzuela passed away tragically at the age of 60. Amazingly sad that it happened this week when he was, part of those World Series runs with the Dodgers. I'm sure he was probably going to be throwing out a first pitch or anything like that. I haven't looked on how he passed, but very sad news right off the start. Uh, Big Dodger legend. Totally forgot to mention that, James. Sorry, that was in my notes. Sorry about blindsiding you on that one. Uh,
No, no, yeah. He's a big name Dodger legend. It's sad to see him go. I don't know too much about him. Obviously, he was before our time. I've seen highlights, obviously, on MLB Network and YouTube and stuff, and obviously the stats alone tell you how good of a pitcher he was. But yeah, 63, way too young.
yeah, very very nice guy. I was lucky enough to work with him when I was working with the Dodgers in the 2010s. He worked on the Spanish side of Dodgers Network, but used to always see him in the break room. Very nice guy. Um, always loved talking baseball and Dodgers. Um, but one of the best. Um, and that bridges that will take us to the World Series matchup. We haven't seen this matchup since 1981, um, and the media loves this matchup. To say it very kindly, Dodgers Yankees, two huge markets. I would say over the last few years, we've had some dud World Series, not those great moments, long series as we'd hope for. A lot of things that have happened in the World Series recently have been very predictable. I think MLB needs a long competitive series, a lot of runs scored in this series. I'm expecting it to be very star powered. Soto, Judge, Stanton, Otani, Betts, on and on and on, all these Hall of Famers. This is exactly what MLB needs. James, what's your feeling going into this World Series for the overall landscape of the MLB game?
Yeah, I think Major League Baseball was desperate for a series like this, especially coming off last year. Obviously, I'm a Diamondbacks fan, but Diamondbacks Rangers probably didn't, get many people to tune in like a typical World Series was when you have the likes of the Cubs or the Yankees or the Dodgers, obviously. So the fact that we have the Dodgers and the Yankees, two storied programs, it's probably equivalent to Celtics Lakers. Anytime you get that West Coast versus East Coast, you can't ask for anything more than that. And like you mentioned, you have even just two guys you mentioned, Judge and Otani, arguably the two best players in baseball. And I'm leaving off Soto, which is crazy to think about. Um, yeah, you just really can't ask for more. Major League Baseball has a huge opportunity to really do great things with this World Series. However, my one caveat is I wish they started it a little earlier because they're going to be going up against a ton of other sporting events, with one being college football. And unfortunately, in America, football kind of trumps everything. We have a couple good college football games tonight with game one of the World Series going on, and then game two is obviously on Saturday. And college football aficionados who also are baseball fans typically lean football. So yeah, hopefully, just the fact that it's Dodgers Yankees alone, it might break records when it comes to World Series ratings. But I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited too. I think it's going to be the most watched World Series purely for the fact of the viewership in Japan. I think it's going to be insane. Something that MLB obviously has been heavily marketing towards over the last decade plus. It goes way further back than that, even. I think we're going to see crazy ratings outside of this country for this World Series. That said, let's break this thing down. We're going to just start off right off the bat. Let's talk some hitting. Who do you think has the advantage? Yankees, Dodgers. Who is going to be? Who's got the hitting edge?
So it's pretty even in my books. I'm giving the slight edge to the Dodgers because when I went through each position and kind of, Will Smith versus Austin Wells and Freddie Freeman versus Anthony Rizzo, stuff like that, I tried to figure out, okay, what position does each team have, the Dodgers better here, the Yankees better here, and I totaled out a little more in the Dodgers' favor. So I have the Dodgers slightly above, not to mention, obviously, they have Ohtani, who, I love Aaron Judge. He had a great year, but Ohtani is the best player in baseball right now. So I like the Dodgers, on paper, obviously, since we're doing the preview, slightly above the Yankees. Will that happen? Obviously, that's why we play the game, but I have the Dodgers. What about you?
I get the Dodgers as well, kind of pretty slightly as well. I mean, I love the 1-2-3. Who wouldn't love the 1-2-3 of Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman? But it's that next grouping right down below. Muncy's had a fantastic playoff. Kike Hernandez always gets hot in October. Chris Taylor hasn't done much, but like Tommy Edman, Will Smith, these guys are contributing, and at any point they can pop off. Their team just feels so deep, 1-9, and just having Ohtani up there at the top, and I know Judge, Soto, Stanton, all really good, and their team is just as deep. I mean, this is the best 2-9s probably out in the game. There's a reason why both these teams ended 1-1 in the NL and AL at the end of the season. But I'm going to slightly give it to the Dodgers in this one. What do you feel for the pitching?
So I broke the pitching down into starting pitching and bullpen. Yankees definitely have the edge when it comes to starting pitching. The Dodgers are kind of they're very injured, and Flaherty hasn't been great this postseason. He's had a good year overall, but he's kind of running as the number one when the likes of guys like, Walker Buehler's coming back from a pretty serious elbow injury. Kershaw's on the IL. We're not going to see him at all, obviously. So it's kind of a ragtag group for the Dodgers, and they're running a lot of bullpen games out there. They have been this postseason. So I do give the Dodgers the edge in the bullpen. They have a ton of arms and a ton of guys like Kopech, Evan Phillips, et cetera, et cetera. They have a ton of guys who are definitely capable. We saw the Yankees bullpen. Now, while it's much improved, they kind of faltered a little against the Guardians. So I'm curious to see how they rebound in the World Series. But overall, I'm going to give the Yankees as a slight edge, but definitely in the starting pitching category.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk too deeply into this, but I'll just mention this really fast. I think the Dodgers have a slight advantage, and that has to do with the fact of how the Dodgers are really working this pitching staff this postseason. I think Dave Roberts, for as much grief as the LA media gives him, has done a pretty good job with all the injuries that they've had. Flaherty's been good. Yobamoto's been good. Buehler's been good. Their defense, their bullpen's been fantastic. They've converted a lot of starters into relievers, so they're able to eat up a lot of innings on the back end. Combined all together, you've got this group of like 13 guys that are good, but all together seem real good. So I think they have a good game plan coming in, and it's a collective group. I kind of prefer the Dodgers pitching overall. Anything to add on that one, James?
I'm just curious to see, Yamamoto's a really good example of someone who has a lot of pedigree back in Japan. He's still pretty young at 25 or 26. He's been shaky this postseason. I think he has a little over a 5 ERA. But it's experience in a major tournament in this, playoff picture that I want to see what he's made of. He came over for a ton of money. You know, every team in baseball would have loved to get a guy like him, especially coming off the World Baseball Classic and how he looked. So, he's a key to that Dodger starting rotation because Flaherty's been around. You know what you're going to get from him theoretically, but Yamamoto, he hasn't dominated like I think people thought he would in his first season with the Dodgers. So,
kind of going off script here
we'll
for a
see.
sec. Going off script here for a second. Just have to ask this question, just for the sake of asking the question. Any chance we see Ohtani pitch in this series?
I don't think so. I think we would have seen reports come out. I mean, there were those reports before the playoffs started about him potentially pitching, but you can't risk further injury with him. If something were to happen and then his bat's taken out of the lineup, the Dodgers management would just absolutely get destroyed. So
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I'm going to go a little out of order here. I'm going to ask you the question of who's the player to watch for from both sides?
Yeah, so some of my, obviously every player is starting caliber, and we're in the World Series. They're all great players. But for the Yankees, I want to see how Garrett Cole pitches. He has the opportunity if this series goes 7 games, he could start 3 times or even come out of the bullpen if needed. We've seen that before in multiple World Series. Guys like Randy Johnson, Kurt Schilling, even last year with Jordan Montgomery for the Rangers coming out of the pen. So guys like Garrett Cole, I mean, he's a dog. He's going to be ready. He wants a ring. So I want to see what he's made of and if he can bring a World Series championship to New York, something they haven't seen in quite some time. As for the Dodgers, Tommy Edman is interesting to me. He was the guy they brought over at the deadline this year, if not maybe a little before. I can't remember when exactly he got traded. But he's coming off an NLCS MVP, and he's been absolutely raking this postseason. And he's really shorn up kind of a center field job that many thought was James Outman's to lose after how he performed as a rookie last year. Yeah, that didn't translate into year 2. So Tommy Edman has been someone who has really held down that, center field defensive role, and then obviously his bat has been just immensely useful, like I said. NLCS MVP. So those are my 2 guys to watch for either team.
Yeah, my 2 guys. I got Gleyber Torres from the Yankees. Not the biggest superstar on the team, but I think he's gonna help run that offense if they were to win. The guy that I feel like is going to emerge, and it feels like he emerges every October, Kike Hernandez. This guy just gets hot in October. It's something absurd. Like, this guy's got like 15 home runs in postseason play, which is wild to think. He just hits home runs when it comes to October, and he hits them in key moments. This is the big question. Who do you got? What's your predict? Oh, sorry.
Well, I want to say one thing. Glaber is an interesting player because he sets the table ahead of Soto and Judge. So
Yeah.
if he can get on base, it's just, one more duck on the pond for Soto, Judge, and Giancarlo, those guys to drive in.
Correct. Yeah. Big question here. What's your prediction? How many games does it go?
Another tough question because both these teams, I mean, you can make an argument for either one of these teams. I mean, like we've continually say, both teams are stacked. I like the Yankees in 6 only because, one, I'm a Diamondbacks fan. I don't like the Dodgers, so I don't want to see them win. And the Dodgers always seem to collapse when it comes to the playoffs. Maybe this will be a different year because they have Shohei on the team, but yeah, I don't know. You could really flip a coin, and this is the most even World Series I think I've seen in quite some time. So I got Yankees in 6.
Yeah, so I'm taking the Dodgers in 6. This team just feels different, especially since Game 5 of the Padres series. It just feels like this is supposed to happen. They've gone through so much adversity all year, so many injuries, and they continue just to push through. Otani is the best player in baseball, and that's definitely going to help. That said, the only thing outside, I'm not super confident with that pick, but the only thing I am super confident with is this series will go at least 6. I will be very shocked if it's a sweep or goes 5. I'm very confident it's going to be tightly contested, a lot of good matchups, high scoring. I do think we're going to see a lot of home runs throughout the series, but I'll take Dodgers in 6. Very well could go 7, but honestly, if the Yankees win, it would not surprise me at all. That said, who's your World Series MVP?
Since I picked the Yankees, I'm going with Juan Soto. That homer he hit in the Guardian series just absolutely was electric. And Judge has been taking all the headlines this season in New York. Not to say that Soto's forgotten, but I mean, you talk to Yankees fans, he's not forgotten. He's also a free agent at the end of the year, so if he puts on a really good World Series performance, he's already had a pretty good playoffs, and he had a really really good year. I mean, this is a guy who could be fetching upwards of 550, 600 mil with his next contract. So, and he's still 25 years old, which is absolutely insane. And he has a World Series already under his belt with Washington. So, I mean, he hasn't even theoretically touched his prime yet. If people talked about, remember when we were growing up, your prime was like age 27 to 31.
Yeah.
And we just keep seeing these athletes get younger and younger and dominate. And the fact that he's been in the league since he was like 19. I mean, this guy seems like he's been around forever, and he's 25.
Yeah.
So I think Juan Soto, I don't even want to say breaks out. He's not breaking out, but he's going to have a World Series, I think, for us to remember.
I'm going Mookie Betts. I think a lot of the attention is going to be on those big guys, but I think both the Dodgers and the Yankees are going to try and keep Judge and Otani quiet to some extent. A lot of attention on those two. I think for the Dodgers, Betts is going to be the biggest most rewarded off of that, batting behind Otani, giving opportunities to hit him in. Betts is really broken out of his postseason slump as of a couple series ago. I think he's got something to prove. He comes in hungry. He came to the Dodgers trying to win a title like so many of these other guys. But I'm going Mookie Betts. I think he has a series to remember, and comes to the plate with a lot of guys on base and takes advantage of it. I know there's a couple questions you've got. I'll pass it to you, James. Go right ahead.
Yeah, the only questions I wanted to leave with this preview episode was, when's Freddie Freeman gonna turn up? I mean, it's been basically all postseason. And I know he's battled a little bit of injury, but he's not really been having a great postseason. Obviously, anything he can bring to the table only helps that Dodger offense. And one guy we failed to mention early on when talking about the Dodger lineup, I just got to give a shout out to Teoscar Hernandez, because he's someone who, talk about a guy who is a great hitter, great power hitter, and just, again, when you're in a lineup with Muncy, Freeman, Betts, Otani, I mean, he's that kind of that fifth guy who just goes unnoticed, and he's towards the middle to bottom of that lineup, and he's such a tough out.
I mean, both these teams.
The only other question.
Oh, sorry. Both these teams have guys that are like batting like seventh. 5 through 7, 8 would be batting 2, 3 on other teams. I mean, so many guys on these.
It's so dumb.
Yeah.
And then the last question is, can Luke Weaver get back on track? He's kind of, I don't want to say fallen into, but he's kind of taken over that closer role, kind of the best arm in the Yankee bullpen. Failed starter with the Cardinals, comes over to Arizona, starts to kind of turn it around, then gets injured. He's kind of been bouncing around, turns into a reliever, and he's had a really good year in the bullpen. So that Yankees bullpen had a little rough go with it in the Guardians series, but they're going to really need to rely on Luke Weaver to come in the later innings, and whether that's the seventh inning, eighth inning, or ninth, it doesn't really matter. He's probably going to be called upon to get those big outs. If you got Otani, Betts, Freeman coming up in the seventh, I wouldn't be surprised if Weaver's the first one thrown out there, not to get the save, but to go through the heart of that Dodger order. So
Yeah.
he's also going to be key, I think, and for him getting back on track, that's only going to help that Yankee team.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be a key to the Yankees' success. If he does not play well, does not pitch well, they really are going to struggle. Going back to the Freddie Freeman thing, it's all about health with him. You just hope that he has the stamina to make it through the series. He struggled through that San Diego series. He's been battling injury. You just hope that nothing bad happens to him early in the series. We want to see both teams as close to full strength as possible. And I know baseball's hoping for the same thing. We don't want to see one of these stars go down in game one and be out for the series, because that would just plain out suck. So, that said, anything to add before we sign off here?
I think that's it. Just hoping for a good series. I mean, I have no dog in the fight, so I just want, competitive baseball. I don't want to sweep. I want some fun games, and then the off-season begins.
Yep, then it gets fun again. All right, guys. Well, enjoy the World Series. A lot of fun sports this weekend. If you're in LA, stay safe. There is so much to do out there. And hopefully one of us gets our prediction right. Watch it go 4 and watch it be really bad now that we've said this whole show that it's going to be a competitive great series. Watch this be like the worst World Series ever.
That's a sweep.
Yeah. All right, guys. Until next week. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you soon.